All right, everybody, Talk of the Town is up and running in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, USA. I'm Scott Montesano, and this is where the Chippewa Valley comes to talk. Hello, everybody. I hope everyone's having a fantastic time on this Tuesday. It is Election Day in the Chippewa Valley. I hope everybody is taking advantage of that. They've gotten out of the house. They have gotten their election materials they've done everything they need to do with their election, and you've made your selection with various races and with referendums that are going on. And obviously, we will talk more about that on Thursday. We will follow up all that transpired from Tuesday coming up on Thursday. We will tell you who won. We will dissect why certain decisions may have happened. We will dissect the results on Thursday. Of course, the Eau Claire City Council presidency race. We'll see who wins that. A lot was made over the weekend about outside monies coming in and trying to influence that. We talked a little bit about that last Thursday. You've got the Menominee mayoral race. Who's going to come out there? Longtime incumbent seeing a significant challenge. Altoona school referendum, which is expected to pass. The Eau Claire School District, which we'll talk about in a moment, they have a school board election. But we will save all of that for Thursday. We've got other things to get to, including a Hungry Italian restaurant review. It's been a couple of months since we did some Hungry Italian restaurant reviews and figured ahead of Thursday this would be a good time to do that. But do want to backtrack a little bit. Saturday night, had a chance to go to the Pablo Center to watch an acoustic version of Soul Asylum. Soul Asylum was big in top 40 world in the early 90s. They were really big in the alternative rock world from, say, the late 80s through the 1990s, and they've continued to tour and what have you, and now they're doing an acoustic set. Enjoyed it. Really enjoyed my time on Saturday. Am I a big Soul Asylum fan? No. I know one song, and trust me, if you are of a certain age, say 35 on up, you know Runaway Train. That was their big hit that I think got to number 5 on the Casey Kasem Top 40 back in, say, 1993. But really enjoyed the show on Thursday. Got my secret spot that I love. I sit last row in the first floor. Last row in the first floor, so you can stand up. It got quick access to the bathroom, quick access to the refreshment stand. Love those seats. It was not a dancing concert, though. It was people sat. It was a drinking crowd. I'd love to know the numbers, though, that they got in alcohol sales on Saturday, because it was a crowd, I'd say mostly those, say 35 to 55. That seemed to be the wheelhouse for the ticket buyers. And the people sat, enjoyed themselves. It was not a rock concert because it was acoustic, but it also wasn't necessarily swaying music. Whoever the opener was outstanding. Whoever the opener was, he was hilarious. Was on for 45 minutes. Told these great one-liner jokes, then he'd play a song, then say another one-liner joke. It was awesome. He was the absolute perfect opener. One of those things that as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, man, this guy's worth the price of admission alone. But you want to be careful. It's like the great assistant coach isn't always a great head coach. The great side dish, you don't necessarily want that to be the whole entree. The guy's been doing this, I guess. He's in his early 50s. Been doing this for years. I'm sure he's been the guy at a couple of stops in his career, but by golly, he was outstanding as the opener. Perfect. Really got us warmed up on Saturday. Had a great show, great time on Saturday at the Pablo Center, seeing Soul Asylum, and a good crowd there. It was by no means packed. but still a good crowd, good entertainment, and it's a reminder, as I keep telling everybody, get out and do something. Get out and try something. I think between the tickets for my wife and I, and if you factor in getting some dessert afterwards, I think we were barely, and plus my wife got a fancy alcoholic drink there. Trust me, she was as loose as leaves falling off a tree after she drank this thing, and I got a water. You factor all that in, I think we were barely out $110 for an evening of entertainment. Oh my God, that's really expensive, folks. It was worth the price. It was good. The value was outstanding. You could go to Taco Bell, spend $7 and feel as though you got worse value than spending over $100 at an event like this, in which you have a moment, you have a memory. So great time on Saturday at the Pablo Center. Back to reality. First off, too, I hope everybody enjoyed their Easter. I got crushed in the Easter egg hunt again. The Easter egg game has passed me by. I used to really dominate the family. Even before we had kids, I used to dominate my wife in Easter egg hunts. Used to dominate my family back home. Oh, I stink now. My son, but especially our daughter, she is diabolical in hiding the eggs. I'm terrible at it now. Mentioned today, Tuesday, there is, amongst the plethora of various things on the ballot, there is school board elections in Eau Claire. The Eau Claire Area School District has got school board elections, and we'll see if what came out yesterday impacts what some people decide to vote. Because the Eau Claire Area School District on Monday night made the decision that they are going to cut back on hours for 20 teachers and not renew the contracts of 21 other teachers after this year. Now, by the way, I went back online. They don't have the minutes of the meeting up. In fact, they don't have the meeting minutes of school board meetings updated on the website since, I think, the end of January. And they've had 2 meetings in February, 2 in March, last night. Pathetic. I shouldn't have to go back and watch. I should be able to see the minutes. You've got a very large administrative staff in the Eau Claire Area School District building. Horrible job by the communications people at the Eau Claire Area School District. Horrible. I don't care what the excuses are. Horrible. You should have those minutes up by the next morning. Horrible job. But either way, 20 teachers are going to have their hours cut back. Less hours, less money. So they're in essence having their pay cut. And 21 other teachers, their contracts are up, and they are not going to be invited back. So no one's being fired, but nobody is being retained. The math is simple, folks. And I know this has caused a big hullabaloo, and people are like, robble. And it goes back to when the school district started to float the idea publicly of maybe closing a school or two. Folks, the math is simple. You don't have as many students. Even though the population of the area has gone up, across the country, you don't have as many kids. A lot of kids weren't being born 10 or so years ago. You've hit that enrollment cliff. You don't have as many kids. The senior class in the Eau Claire School District is their largest right now as they leave. They're not being replaced by a big kindergarten class. So you don't need as much of what you have. It's a supply and demand thing. And the Eau Claire Area School District is facing a rather robust, significant budget shortfall. So how are you going to cut the cost? Well, one way is right there in front of you. We've got some teachers, their contracts are up. We don't necessarily have to fire them. we don't need them next year. We can do with what we currently have. We don't have to fill in gaps. With other teachers, they're cutting back the hours. They're trying to cover a significant budget shortfall. Folks, it stinks. It stinks. It sucks. And I know that some people are going to quickly say, well, why not cut that bloated administration staff? You just mentioned that they stink at communications. And I would hope that they are looking at that sort of thing as well. But I want to point this out to everybody. Everybody always agrees. Operate like a business. Make your cuts. Supply and demand. Make your cuts. But no one wants their thing cut. No one wants their thing cut. Now, I do believe teachers should be the last line that you are cutting, but it's easy to say, well, get rid of a secretary in the office at an elementary school. Well, that's going to have ripple effects. Cut a couple of janitors. Folks, that's going to have ripple effects you don't necessarily expect until you need it. They have to make cuts. And it's one of those things that, all right, they don't cut this. Where are those cuts going to come from? And it's very easy for you to say, and we all do it as adults, it's very easy to cut positions and cut people that are nameless and faceless to you. Nameless and faceless. Just cut some administration. Well, you want to know why you say that? Because you don't think you're impacted at all by that administration. You don't think there's any benefit or anything you get out of it. But as soon as you were to get any benefit out of it, well, I don't want that cut. And it's okay, too. They had parents last night speaking at the school board meeting. They didn't want certain people to lose their job. And I understand that. And good for those parents to go out there and speak because they're defending those people that have impacted them. But if they keep their job, where else? The public schools across the country have lost enrollment. And it's not as simple as saying, well, the private schools are stealing the kids. Yes, there are some more kids that have gone to private schools, but the enrollment numbers aren't astronomical, even with those in the area. I don't think homeschooling has made as big of a chunk as the homeschool proponents would say. Are there more people homeschooling than there were before? Yeah. But if you go from 1 to 2 people homeschooling, well, you've doubled your numbers. Now it's more than that, but you get the idea. It's still not a significant number that are doing that. And I would argue, and you do see some research of this, in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see things pull back a little bit on a lot of that. People going, hey, I'm already paying taxes for the public schools. I'm going to take my kids to the public schools again. The Oak Area School District, which is the canary in the coal mine, a lot of school districts are facing the same thing. How are you going to compensate for that budget shortfall? And what gets cut? And what has to get cut? Because cuts are going to have to happen. They're going to have to happen unless there's other ways you can raise revenue. All right. The Eau Claire City Council will be having a new president elected on Tuesday, but also this month, we know that Emily Anderson in District 2 last month announced that she is stepping aside. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. You can be irritated, and maybe rightfully so, that she made the decision, or at least made it public, too late for there to be an actual election. So these city council members will fill the spot temporarily until next year. And they are going to, the people were invited, you were invited if you live in Eau Claire, to put your name in the hat. And it looks like 3 people have come forth and said they would like that position. 3 people, all 3 have some bit of visibility in the area. Brian Trowbridge, who has twice been defeated as a candidate, And that, by the way, I do think is a significant. None of these three candidates are somebody I could endorse. Brian Trowbridge has been twice defeated as a candidate. It'd be hard for me to say, yeah, I'll give you the space, only because the public has already said it doesn't want you twice. Now, I don't think he's a bad candidate, actually, and I think at least one of the two times I was for him him winning. But he's been twice voted down. Another is Shelley Janke. Shelley Janke currently runs the Eau Claire Humane Association. Dogs, cats, rabbits, so on, living happily together. And you've got Joyce Orth, who is an engagement specialist with Fierce Freedom. Basically, she's a communications person. Not to downplay it, that's what I am. But she, instead of just saying, it's one of those fancy titles you put on a business card. And she's done the same thing at the Altoona School District years ago. I think before COVID is when she was doing that sort of stuff at the school district as well. So Brian Trowbridge, Shelley Janke, and Joyce Orth have put their name in the ring. Here's the tough part about it. All three have got significant flaws. As I said with Brian, he's twice been defeated. The other two have got, to me, what I think is even more of a fatal thing that you can't support right now. And let me stress, I think Shelley's done a great job at the Humane Association. Probably has done a great job. Joyce, a lot of people I know have said she does a bang-up job with a great organization in Fierce Freedom. So this is not about the job they currently do. But the job they currently do with Shelley and Joyce, to me, makes them unhireable for this role. Let me tell you why. Both are coming from the nonprofit world. Humane Association and Fierce Freedom. Two things with causes that are much more important than what I'm doing right now. Very important. They do great work. But we have too many already on the council that have that nonprofit mindset. And this is not a negative. It's not like you've got a scarlet letter on you that your mind is warped if you work in the nonprofit world. No. But just like a good team, you don't want to have all type A personalities and type B and all this. Same thing here. We've got way too many nonprofit mentalities in the city council, especially people that are working remotely for nonprofits. Nonprofit business is different than for-profit business. There are still elements, especially if you're somebody like Shelley who's got to run the numbers and supply and demand and make orders and all of that. There are a lot of similarities, but in a good way, nonprofits live in a more utopia altruistic vision that things just need to be done because they're not serving customers, they're serving a cause. That's a good thing in nonprofit. But, for example, the heat goes out at the kennel. The heat goes out at the Eau Claire Humane Association. They don't have the funds, but we have to do it, no matter the price. That would be the idea, say, for Shelley at the Humane Association. Heat's gone out. We don't have the money for a new XYZ, for a new furnace or whatever, but hey, we're not going to, but it has to be done. It has to be done. In business, you'd find ways to duct tape it together, piece it together, move along, and what have you. In nonprofit world, and you hear this a lot from people that sit on boards in the area, that people that work at nonprofits, they'll go to the board meeting and say, well, we have to do this. And the board members will say, well, we just can't, but we can make plans to do that. No, it has to be done. Well, why does it have to be done? And there's not a sales pitch or whatever. It's just it has to be done because it's the right thing to do and all these kind of things. There's not a lot of layers to it. Well, this thinking carries over into views on various things. such as spending and the such, when it comes to city government. So the fact that we've got way too many nonprofit mentalities already, and if Jeremy Greger wins, that'll be another nonprofit mentality. This is not a knock on nonprofits, but you need somebody. We were just talking about with the school board. Sometimes you gotta be a bit of an ass, and that is you have to make cuts. And everybody, it's easy to make cuts of something that you don't like. But eventually, you've got to cut things, and even stuff that you've got to cut things that maybe don't seem right to you, but in the greater good, they're going to be beneficial for everybody. This is not necessarily an endorsement of Brian either. As I said, I can't get past the fact that voters have already said no to him twice. I give him credit, though, for putting his hat in the ring there. With Shelley, she's somebody that's been running a very viable, very front-facing nonprofit in this area with the Humane Association. There's a lot of strengths to it. But again, I just don't want that nonprofit mentality, more of it, in the city government. Because again, they have more of a utopia altruistic vision, which is a good thing. Their servitude is to a cause. Whereas right now, especially with the city council, you need to see things a little bit more black and white and number crunching and make hard calls and make calls that might not seem to be very personable and that kind of thing. So we'll see what they decide, though. If you gave me Shelley, and this is not a knock on Joyce, if you gave me Shelley in that role, having at least been the leader at the Humane Association, I could stomach that. I think I could stomach that. Absolutely, I think I could stomach that. All right. So Thursday, we're going to come back to you with all the results of the elections on Tuesday. Who wins the Menominee mayoral race, and does Greger win? Does Scott Rogers win? And the Eau Claire City Council, looks like voting numbers have been good. We'll do all that on Thursday. But while we've got some time, it's been a while, time for you and I to do a little Hungry Italian restaurant review. These are not paid for reviews. These businesses don't even know when I'm coming in for that. So let's start off. Insomnia Cookies. So Insomnia Cookies is a national chain. Came to the area, was it right? Early January? I think they opened up on Water Street. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you have not gone to Insomnia Cookies, you're missing out. 1,000 times better than Crumble Cookie. There was all this hype for Crumble opening up. And I enjoyed Crumble the first year or two they were in town. But Crumble has pivoted away from cookies, in case you haven't noticed, and they've become more of a mediocre bakery now. Like you look at the app, and I still have the Crumble app, and they'll list out their flavors for the week, and I'll look at it and I'll go, that's a pie. Not that there's anything wrong with pie, but they don't have cookies anymore. Insomnia Cookie is cookies, and they're really good cookies, and you can go there, and this will be really popular as the weather gets nicer, and make your own cookie witch. Pick your cookie flavors, pick your ice cream, get a cookie witch. Outstanding. It reminds me of a place called the Baked Bear, which was big in the central part of the country for a while. The Baked Bear. Same idea. So Insomnia Cookies, they are outstanding, and they're even better when you compare them to Crumble, which is like an athlete. Crumble's like the athlete that dreams of being a musician, and they stop focusing on their athletics. Focus on what got you here. If Crumble focuses back on cookies, they could retake this. But Insomnia Cookies on Water Street, go there, get yourself a treat. You will not regret it at all. Moving on, Wagner's. Now, I've talked about Wagner's before during football Sundays, but couple weeks ago, was at Wagner's and got a pizza and wings with the wife and kids. Got a pizza and wings while we were bowling at Wagner's. You never really know what you're going to get at Wagner's because it changes every few months. All right? But this was good bar food. I'm not going out of the way. The pizza, if you haven't had the pizza in 6 months, it's different pizza. And frankly, if we get past the month of May and you're listening to this, the pizza might be different then too. They change it so frequently. They're supposed to have pan pizzas. They don't really have pan pizzas. They used to have kind of a cracker crust. They don't. What you got was a bar pizza. A bar pizza. It was a flat pizza cut into squares with a, for those that maybe are a little bit of a food aficionado, not a cracker crust. It was kind of a half Sicilian crust, a little doughy. Again, wasn't bad. We got the pepperoni pizza. It was cup pepperoni, which is a nice change. That holds the cup, it holds the grease there, but there was hardly any of it on it. Each slice had one pepperoni on it, almost like it was decorative. So that was a little cheap, if you will. If this was an artisan place, you can claim you want balance. And it's here to get the good mouthfeel. No, this was just them being cheap. At Wagner's, there should be at least 3 or 4 per slice because these are small pepperonis. It felt more like a cheese pizza that had pepperoni accidentally on it. But again, enjoyed it. The wings were good. Enjoyed the wings with mild sauce. Wagner's pizza and wings, don't go out of your way for it, but if you're there at Wagner's, it'll get the job done. Cancun, always a favorite of the Montesanos, but I'm going to be honest with you. Probably not going to be going for the next little bit. Went there a few weeks ago, and frankly, it's become flavorless. At least the one on Hastings. It's kind of lost its soul. The Cancun on Hastings. The menu's a lot smaller than it's ever been before. The place doesn't really seem to have that nice vibe anymore. You can't put your finger on it. There's no hot sauce on the table anymore. Like no sauces on the table at all. If you want to get a sauce, they bring you a small cup of, maybe it's their house sauce in the back, but it also could be a chula that they've just poured into a cup. Seems like either they're really cutting back on costs or they've just lost their soul at Cancun. Staple for many years was Cancun on Hastings for me, but and I'm optimistic because remember the Milwaukee Burger Company for a little while fell out of favor with me, and now they're back and hitting it out of the park again. But Cancun, last time I got enchiladas, I was just eating goop on a plate. I mean, it looked like enchiladas, and it had the texture and all of that, but it just felt like I was eating something that was bland and just no life to it whatsoever. And I'm not talking about spice or anything, just no flavor to it at all. So I hope Cancun bounces back because that's a staple. All right, and then we wrap it up with this. Mona Lisa's. So Mona Lisa's on Water Street. Went there for Valentine's a couple months ago. Went to Mona Lisa's. Haven't been to Mona Lisa's in years. Since before the pandemic. That's how long ago it was. And we went there. We went actually after a show at the Pablo. And we went there. It was 8:40 on a Thursday night, the Thursday before Valentine's. And we went there. And when we got there, it was just us and one other table. And even though it was just us and one other table, we got exquisite service by a gentleman there. A lot of places, and I wouldn't have blamed him, you've got one knee on the ground and you're running out the clock because they stopped seating at 9. We were keeping them there. Now, we'd made reservations. They knew we were coming, but they could have very easily just hurried through the evening. That was not the case. Exquisite service. You're paying a little more, and you got exquisite service. I got the salmon and risotto with a bourbon glaze. I can just talking about it, I can still taste it. It was so good. salmon and risotto with a bourbon glaze. I talk about the Cancun experience, flavorless. This thing, it was fireworks in my mouth in a good way. Nice decor, great service. It's expensive, but you don't think about it. I know for some people, Mona Lisa's they hit a wall because the owner seems like a jackass. But think about it. Really, what has she done? Really, what have the Mogansons overall done? They haven't been in the news for years. They were briefly in the news during the pandemic because they had some thoughts about businesses opening and what to do and all that. And I know she could be a little outspoken sometimes on social media, but does it really impact you? No, it really doesn't. I mean, unless there's something she says that you, and this is entirely up to you, that is a fatalistic statement she makes. But for the most part, people actually, whenever you talk about it around town, they're like, we really don't know anything. it's, it, 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 it's sort of taken on a life of its own. They're really not a controversial family unless you've had direct interactions with them that you can pull upon, which is perfectly fine. But for the vast majority of us, we haven't had any interaction with them. I'm sure you might have had a bad business dealing or this or that, and that's entirely your call. But otherwise, if you're staying away from Mona Lisa's because you think the owner's X, Y, and Z, you're missing out yourself. It's so good. And we got as an appetizer meatballs. The meatballs are great. These are too classy for spaghetti and meatballs, but I mean, I get it. You have a Corvette. Don't use it to drive just to the pharmacy to grab something quick. But man, if they had a spaghetti and meatball dish at Mona Lisa's, I'd get that as well, and I'd pay 3 times as much as I do at, say, Olive Garden for it, just because of the flavor of those meatballs. So Insomnia Cookie, big thumbs up. You got to get there. Wagner's, if you're there bowling, get the pizza. You won't be disappointed, but it's not pizza you've got to go out of your way for. Cancun, hey, there's better Mexican options right now in the area. Cancun's got to pick it back up. And Mona Lisa's, make plans to get there. That's an experience. It's an experience for your mouth. All right, back with you on Thursday. We've got elections to follow up on come Thursday. On behalf of everyone who made this podcast possible, I'm Scott Montesano, saying there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow shining at the end of every day. Make sure to take advantage of it. And until next time, so long, everybody.